Hello, everybody. It's Stephen and Walter here for another episode of So Chatty for August the 25th, 2023. And today we're going to talk about Accuquilt systems because we've had some questions about that. People know that I do own an Accuquilt and a lot of dies, and they want to know whether or not it's worth the money because it is an expensive thing. So we're going to talk about all of that. We're going to talk about different resources that go along with Accuquilt, and we're going to talk about the benefits and the disadvantages, because there are a few disadvantages to the Accuquilt system as well. But before we get into all of that, and this is episode 111, by the way, if I did not mention that. I don't know if I need to count these anymore. I should just say the date. I don't know. Because I sometimes get the numbers screwed up. But anyways, we're about 111. Let's put it that way. We're about 111. So you can see that I am donning my new cat shirt. Do I dare say it? My new pussy shirt. And don't go all over me about that word. That's what we used to call the cat all the time when I was a kid. My mother'd stand out in the street calling for the cat because it was an indoor-outdoor cat, and she'd be going, "Here, pussy, 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 pussy." And three hookers would jump out of the bush. No, never mind about that. But yeah, I think Trump gave that word a bad name, So now everybody's afraid to say, "Could you just grab my..." No. All right, let's get on with this. So my new shirt, very new. I'm premiering it here again. You'll probably see it again on Stephen and Walter Live. I really like it. It's very nice. Anything you want to say about the shirt? Anything? No. It's the same old, same as this shirt that you've made. This is a Wally shirt too. You will notice
special buttons on there.
Oh, why are these special?
Because they're special colored buttons.
Oh, special colored, but they're kind of a tealy blue.
Yeah.
Actually, they're quite nice on the shirt. Yeah, you asked me. You showed me a selection of buttons. This wasn't my first choice. I just picked, this one. Well, yeah, that's just blue. And then he knew what he wanted to put on the shirt in the first place. I don't know why you bothered paying me lip service as if I had a say. The only thing I had a say in was the fabric, because I saw his fabric and thought it was nice. It's my colors. So, yeah. Anyways, that's what Walter's been up to. What are you working on now? What are you doing?
Oh, no, I was just checking.
Checking for mistakes?
No. What am I have another shirt cut out, but I haven't started it yet.
No. I assume that one's for you.
Maybe.
Oh. If he doesn't like it, it's for me. Okay, one way or another.
It's kind of nice. It's the one fabric I got at, it's another fern fabric.
Oh, another fern fabric.
Yeah, and I got the fabric out when we were at West, and it's kind of neat because it's got these spots all over it, as if somebody threw wine at you. So that way.
Okay, so it's good. When you're drinking wine, wear that shirt.
Yeah,
you won't see the spots. That's a good idea. Hey, there is some fabric you get that looks like coffee stains.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Actually, it might be, you get more use out of it. You don't have to wash it because people.
I think that's good for mug rugs.
Yeah, that's an idea. I never thought of that. That would be all
your
right.
mug rug with pretty coffee stains on it,
right.
And then you don't have to worry about it.
That's true. And you'll notice he has his patented, pending, famous seat. Look, do you see anything here? No, but watch. It's magic. It's Walter's famous disappearing pockets. Now you see it. Now you don't. He matches those kitties up very nicely.
Which this I didn't match this pocket up because that was pre-matching up pockets.
In your early days of creation. So I've been busy at things too. This is just the top. This is the Christmas quilt I was working on, the Chelsea Stratton design, Regal Pines it's called. She didn't do it in Christmas fabrics. I did. And that's the top. Now I've got the backing. I bought backing the other day for it, so I just have to throw it on Lucy and get it all quilted. I'm really happy with the way it turned out. What do you think?
Yeah, it looks nice.
See any mistakes?
Not obvious ones.
You're not going to find any.
It looks pretty good to me.
There aren't any mistakes in it. None whatsoever. There could have been one of the rows I put on wrong. I had to take it out and put it the other way. I got it flipped. But, and actually that fabric is reading more blackish. That's the outside border than green. It's a little bit greener than that. It's just the...
Yeah, actually the picture doesn't really do it justice because it's, it actually looks more green in real life.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And the white fabric that's there, the back background fabric has actually got goldy colored swirls sort of on it, which aren't really picking up as well. But yeah, I kind of like the way it's turned out. It'll look even better when it's quilted. And I'm thinking maybe snowflakes in maybe a light silvery gray
Mm-hmm.
might look good on this. Because I don't want the quilting to overtake the design of the trees. And it is a scrappy look because each of the trees is each one's a little different. And it actually, this was jelly roll friendly as well. So jelly roll and a charm pack, and then your background fabric and whatever you're going to use for borders on it. But yeah, now I just ordered something today because originally,
Actually, I do see a mistake.
where?
I don't know if it's a mistake. I can't tell for sure.
Where?
But see, you have these little squares down
No,
here, right?
yes.
You don't have them at the top.
Yes, they are there.
Oh, okay.
You just, it's the way the picture is. They're there. No, they're not. But that's not a mistake. No, that's right. Because no, you don't have them in all that. Those
Oh,
squares are
okay.
only
Yeah,
in the
no, all
block
right.
of the
All right.
star,
Okay.
not in the tree blocks.
Not in the tree block. Okay, I
No.
got you. All right.
So that's how
All right.
that works. And you see, if there were up there in the corner, the Irish chain effect would
Yeah,
not
okay,
look right
you're right,
because you
yeah.
couldn't have it. See, 'cause
All
that
right.
continues.
Okay.
Just about made me shit my pants when you said, "Oops, I crap my pants." Peckerhead.
Well, I was just looking for something symmetrical.
Yeah, I know you were just,
But that, I mean, that could have been a mistake.
but it wasn't.
No.
Told you it's absolutely perfect in every way,
Okay,
like
fine.
me. Absolutely, practically perfect in every way, just like Mary Poppins. Okay, so yeah, I bought this new thing. Originally, what I had planned for today, I was going to go lay out all my quilts that are piled up in the Lucy room, and we were going to do a sort: donate, gift, keep. And I'd probably have a little trouble with that. And I think that's probably unconsciously, maybe more consciously, why we're not doing that today. Also, though, I couldn't really display them. And this is the problem with this picture I just showed you of that quilt. The way I take pictures of them, they're flat on the floor. And I can't get, right over top of them in the center. So they get skewed a little bit, and that might be the effect of lighting. So I ordered on Amazon, and I don't know how good it's going to be. I'm taking a chance on this. What they actually use is two tripoded stands, poles, with a cross piece, and it'll extend to 10 feet across and 8.5 feet tall. It's all adjustable. And my theory is that I can hang my quilts when I want to take a picture of them on this rack. And it comes with a storage bag. It all collapses up, folds up. And when I don't need it for that, I'll just put it out of sight in the bag. This is what I'm hoping. It says it'll handle up to 11 pounds. Well, I don't think I have a quilt that weighs 11 pounds, but some of them can be because I don't want it to bow in the middle. That's the only thing I'm a little worried about. Because it was designed for backdrops or for banners and things. And I looked around for all kinds of ones. And so I dropped about $75 Canadian on this thing. So it's supposed to come tomorrow. So we'll see. But I'm hoping that it'll work. So when I take pictures like you're seeing today of quilts, I have a better, shot at them. Like, so you don't see them skewed on the floor kind of a deal. Okay, anyways, we'll see how that works out. All right. So let's jump. Oh, announcements. Usual Wednesday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Sewing with Stephanie and Stephen. We didn't have Stephanie this past week because she's at one of her retreats in Washington State. Although near the end of the day, she did pop in from her car along with a couple of other people that are going to the retreat that she had picked up at the airport. And she's in Washington State. I'm not absolutely sure where in Washington State, but I don't think she's too far from Seattle. Anyways, they popped in for a minute to say hi. So those of you that were online, then you saw her. And I'm sure we'll hear all about the retreat on her next, when she does her next
sew thing or whatever.
Yeah,
or
whatever.
online
I,
show or
yeah, her next
podcast
video production for her channel. Like, rented brain. Anyways, so yeah, so sewing with Stephanie and Steven next Wednesday, 9 a.m. start time. Come and go as you please. Everybody knows the routine. All right, so let's jump into today's topic, all about Accuquilt. And let me just throw something up here on the screen for you. Okay, so lots of people are curious about the Accuquilt system. And what is it exactly? Well, it's a die cutting machine. Any of you that come from a crafting background, like scrapbooking, paper crafts, whatever, I'm sure you're very familiar with die cutting machines. There's various ones on the market. Sizzix is one of the big companies that makes die cutting machines. In fact, I would not be surprised if the company behind Accuquilt is affiliated with Sizzix as well, because they've been making die cutting systems for years. So essentially what these machines do is they'll cut your fabric and cut it into shapes for appliques, cut it into strips, cut it into squares, half square triangles, you name it, it'll cut them. They are pricey, very pricey, as you can see, and they have different models. But before we talk about the price, then what's the difference between the different models besides price? And there's prices coming up now. These prices are American prices. They're more expensive in Canada. Of course they are. So they have the little one. They call it perfect for beginning quilters, kids, and makers. It's a smaller machine. Not all the dies that Accuquilt have available will work in it. Quite frankly, I would not recommend buying that machine if you're going to use it for quilting.
Yeah, well, isn't it more compact with the idea that it's portable?
Yeah, yeah. If you're going to a retreat and you want it to cut dies and things,
And the ones that would work in that machine,
that would work in that machine. Now it's like, see, you can see how much it weighs. It's 8.5 pounds.
Yeah, well, it says it's, yeah, okay.
And it's compatible with more than 130 go dies. So I mean, all your basic dies would work in it. For cutting half square triangles or squares or rectangles.
It's probably the ones that make the bigger dies won't work in there.
No, the bigger dies, like if you get the ones that we're going to talk about, the Bob dies, which are
block on board.
Yes, it block on board can mean a lot of things, but that's what it means for Accuquilt. Anyways, yeah. 149 to 150 bucks American for that.
It's more in Canada. Well, it's more in Canada because it's in Canadian dollars. Canadian dollars. Canadian dollars translate from American dollars into a higher amount. Yeah.
So in Canadian dollars, that is probably about 175 bucks. Might be 100.
Let me just take a look. Okay. I'll do what the conversion is, but it may not be me. It may even be more than that in Canadian dollars because of the fact that it has to be sold in a Canadian store.
Well, that could be true too.
So
Walter's looking up what this 149.99 translates to in Canadian dollars. And he's putting it in as we sit.
What, 99?
Yeah. Could have just said 150.
Yeah, so it's $203.90 in Canadian dollars.
Whoa, I was a little underestimated that one. It's our dollar about 35, 1.35.
1.359. So 1.36.
Okay. So anyways, yeah. The next one up, the Go, you can see it's a little bigger. It has a hand. Well, both of these are crank models, so they're manual. They flip open, and it says it will cut up to 6 layers of fabric. The other one doesn't say how many layers of fabric it will cut. I think they'll all cut 6 layers, though. Well, except for the big shop studio too, but it cuts them up more. But it's twice the weight, almost 15 pounds, and it's compatible with 200 go dies, so you get a little bit more bang for your buck, but it's twice the price.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much the equivalent to the Go electric one. as far as how many dies it does.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Well, that's what it says. So the next one up, and this is the one that I have, Go Big Electric.
okay, the other one, the 329 one, works out to $448 Canadian.
Okay, and how much does the Go Big Electric work out to?
It's 856.
So you can see now you're getting into quite the price range here. And they are expensive. Now this one says it cuts dies up to 14 inches wide, so it's a wider one, and that's important for the blocks on board, which we'll talk about in a bit, because some of those dies are quite large.
Yeah, as far as I know, the Go does most of the dies, but the Go Big will do all the dies.
All the dies.
Right, including some of the wide ones, whereas the Go might not be able to do some
Yeah.
of the wide ones.
So it cuts 6 layers of fabric too. It's automatic because when you fold these down, you plug it in and you just move your die up to the edge of the machine, and it grabs it and pulls it through and cuts. So like they say here, especially arthritis sufferers. So these two, if you have problems with your hands, your wrists, you've got carpal tunnel, whatever, or arthritis in your hands, you may want to go to the electric. And that's one of the big pluses about the electric machine. It's easier on your hands, especially when you're cutting out 300, 400 half square triangles. You might, that might
But
be.
but it's also what, the heaviest of the machines.
Yes,
right?
it is the heaviest. It's not this portable. 23 pounds. Now, yes, it's still portable in the sense that it all folds up like you see here. Those little
It's
flaps.
portable like your sewing machine.
Yeah, yeah. So, if you've got servants, not a problem. Now, the one thing too, when you go in here, they have videos that show you all of these machines in operation as well, which is something that's good about this site. Now, this one is for retailers. It's overkill. It's commercial grade cutter handles, large workloads with ease, but it's a crank.
Mm-hmm.
It's not electric, and it's $715. Cuts up to 10 layers of fabric. Now, this is something that's 42 pounds. It's not really portable.
No.
It will cut, it says compatible with more than 400 studio dies and more than 200 Go dies. Studio dies will not work in any of these other machines. Studio dies are huge dies that have all kinds of multiple things on a die. They are meant for stores that are probably putting together quilt kits, things like that, where you're getting pre-cuts out of it. So not one that's really meant for the average consumer. But there you go. Those are the machines, and that's what they are. They cut through your fabric. So if you're doing applique, or if you need half square triangles or squares or circles, whatever shape, triangles, the whole bit, that's what these machines do.
So a die is sort of like a cookie cutter, right?
Yeah,
in a sense, so that you would have to buy a separate die for each size of square, for instance, right?
Yes. But let's see. Okay, first of all, let's just continue with price. Now, where do I buy my stuff? I buy it from an authorized dealer. Kawartha Quilting is the name of the quilt store that's about half an hour, 40 minutes away from me. And I can order online. They'll ship it to me, or I usually go up and pick it up. And they are an authorized dealer for Accuquilt. And if you have any problems or any questions and things, they're there to help you out because they've been trained with the equipment. Although they're very easy to use. There's not much of a learning curve on them whatsoever.
However, if you're American, you can order it directly from Accuquilt.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have some pretty good sales on.
Like, for example, a special promotion. Free $110 value. Go Hattie's Choice Die 6x12 cutting mat when you buy Ready, Set, Go. Ready, Set, Go is the second machine.
See, some of the machines come bundled with, let's say, what they call a Go Cube, or a book, or cutting mats, or something like that. And that's what some of these ones are showing, are these bundled machines.
Yeah. They also have, which I did not know until today, they have a trade up system. So you can trade in your Go Me or Go fabric cutting machine to get a great deal on a new fabric cutter. So if you want to upgrade to another model above the one that you have, say you started off at the little small one and you've decided, no, you want to go to the next one up. I don't know what they will give you for that.
And not only that, I think you'd probably be responsible for sending the machine to them.
Probably. To do it. And I don't know if you could do that at an authorized dealer or you have to deal directly with the company. This website I've taken you to, the accuquilt.com, is the actual official.
Yeah, if you're
website.
Canadian and you want to order from Accuquilt, you can do so, but you'll find that the shipping is somewhat prohibitive
Yes.
at the price as compared to what you would buy at a store, an authorized dealer in Canada. There are ways around it, but I wouldn't recommend it.
No, because we've tried the ways around it and it was kind of hit and miss. Anyways, the I'm just looking at my notes here, make sure, yeah. So different die sets, because it's no good just having the machine and no dies to cut with. And they have literally hundreds of dies. Now, what to buy? I have all kinds of dies. I focus primarily on the dies that do your basic shapes. I do have some that are applique geared, or ones that will cut out the pieces you need for a specialized quilt, like a mariner's compass or a double wedding ring or something like that. Um, but if you're buying one for the first time, then you have to assess why you're buying one, because this is an investment. Okay.
And the dies are expensive.
Very expensive. Okay. Now, first of all, first decision you have to make is, are you having trouble cutting using the conventional methods? Again, are you suffering from arthritis or some kind of physical problem that makes it painful for you to cut? Do you have trouble cutting accurately? Those are considerations. So that would dictate which machine you're going to buy. Some people like them because, as you can see here, they have all kinds of appliques. But in my opinion, applique dies are a waste of money unless you're making multiple parts. Like, for example, you can get all kinds of snowflake, Christmas themed kinds of dies for making snowmen, making gnomes, making snowflakes, Christmas trees, ornaments, and stuff like that. But is it a one-off? I one of the very first dies I bought was the gnome die. I've used it once. Not because it didn't work, it works fine. But I didn't need more than one gnome applique. Now, if in the future I might want to use it again for other projects, but it was about $50.
But you're still stuck making gnomes.
Yeah, like
in one size.
Yeah, in one size. So a lot of these ones, yeah, they're cute, and they have all kinds of things. Especially if you're making baby quilts or something like that. You want certain little figures on it, certain animals or something like that. Yeah.
I mean, somebody might see one of the ones that make a flower or something, and they like to make flowers, and they make tons of flowers.
Then it would probably be worth.
Then it might be worthwhile. But if you have one that makes tulips, for instance, and you're not a tulip person, you may not want that die. You may only want it for one project, and that's it.
Yeah. So you've got to assess, are you going to get the bang for your buck? Is it a one-off, the die you buy, or are you going to be able to use it multiple times for multiple projects? Now, my suggestion is they have these things called blocks. They have it in 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch. I'm looking at my shelves, 10-inch, and 12-inch. I have them all. They are pricey. For this one, the 8-inch, let's just click. Do they have a link to that? Does it show? Yeah. They call it the Go Cube, with a Q. And here they are. Now, here you go. 5-inch, $249.99. 6-inch, $249. Then it's
and that's
bigger.
on sale.
Yeah, those ones happen to be on
because their
sale.
regular price is $368,
Now,
and that's in American dollars.
yes, we've said that many
Yeah.
times over now. Okay, so but you see, you get these. Now, what are these? These are sets of dies. There's more than one die in here, but they come out in they're really nice storage boxes. They come in very nice. They're very sturdy, and they come with different dies that make whatever's in that grouping. So in the mix and match 5-inch block, you can make blocks that are 10 inches, multiples of 5, or the 6-inch block, 12 up to 12-inch, and some in between, like 8-inch, things like that, depending on the block size. But you can make half square triangles with them. You have single squares. You have rectangles and things like that. So it's more than one die in a box like this. If you were to buy these die separately, and you can, it would cost you probably more than what they're showing here to buy them separately. When I started, I bought the 8-inch because I figured that was the most common, what kind of blocks I would make. And it grew from there. Walter bought me a whole bunch at Christmas as well. So now I'm basically have almost unlimited as far as what size of blocks I can use. So that's what I recommend. You pick one of these to start with. Like if you're used to making 6-inch blocks most of the time, buy the 6-inch block box. If you make 8-inch all the time, buy the 8-inch. To get you started, you will buy more. The other thing that I bought were strip dies. Let's see. Ones that will actually cut strips. I guess I'm just going to go. I got to go back.
Okay, dies.
Dies. Down. They're just showing you
strip
here.
cutter dies right there.
Where? Oh, strip cutter dies. Okay. These are worth the money as well. You know, you always need border strips. You need binding strips. This makes short work of it, and it also makes sure that they're straight. And you'll notice these blocks are not with the fabric in size. I'm sure we can do that. Go back to that. They're about, you have to fold your fabric in half. They will basically, they'll be about, they'll cut about a 22-inch, 21, 22-inch strip. So you just fold your fabric over in half. And in fact, because it cuts 6 layers of fabric, that's what you do with other shapes too. You can accordion fold in case you need, to get some dies will cut so that they have a right orientation, and other pieces you need have a left orientation. So you have to make sure, you have the right side down or the wrong side of your fabric down to get the right orientation. Well, you can do that with an accordion fold of your fabric. They explain that with every die you buy. There is a little explanation of how to set it up. And basically, when you've done it once, you know how to do it for almost any of the dies. They all work the same way. But this will save you a lot of time. The first strip one I bought was the 2.5-inch, which is
Which they don't have there.
which they're not showing here in this one, but they do have it. You just do a search. But anyways, I bought it because that's what I cut strips for my binding at 2.5 inches. I also have one that cuts 3 different strips. 1.5, no, 1.5, 2, no, I forget. Oh, 2.25, 1.5, and 1.25, something like that, all in the same die. And I've got ones that cut wider strips for borders as well, like 5-inch, 6.5-inch, that kind of thing. Those ones I use all the time, all the time. They're worth the investment. Again, they're not cheap, but they're worth the investment for that. Because you know what happens when you cut using a ruler. If their ruler slips a little bit, you get a bow in your strip. And, that's a pain in the butt. Trying to sew around it. Unless you're like me, you just sew over it. But and keep on going. But yeah. So, and then they've got other shapes and things. Like they've got circles, they've got squares. I said half square triangles. It cuts those too. And what's kind of unique about the way it cuts a half square triangle is it basically cuts two triangles and they have squared off ends. Instead of coming out to a point like you would make a half square triangle, you would cut across the diagonal and then you have dog ears. Well, with these, it's easy to line them up because it squares off that little edge where the dog ears are. So when you put one on top of the other one, you know exactly where to sew. You open it up, you don't have any dog ears to trim from it. And it's very, very accurate. Because let's face it, if you're wobbly with your needle, when you're cutting on either side of that drawn line on a conventional half square triangle, your half square triangle will not come out exactly. You have to do a little fudging to get it exactly the size you want. These, bang, they're dead on. But as I said, they have dies for everything and for every size. It becomes an obsession, believe me.
And then I have those block on boards, which are
yeah,
which you are a specialty block, right?
Yeah, I was going to see. Let's see if I
There's ones there. See block on board there in the middle.
Oh, right there. Yeah, block on board. We'll get this to come up here. Okay, so you're doing something like this. So this die, for example, this one's called the Lotus block, 10-inch, cuts out all the pieces at once for one of those blocks. Now you may have to do several cuts because it may have multiple pieces because you see how it's designed.
And you might want to use different colors.
And you might want to use different colors with it too. But it makes things very easy. And they always have instructions and they always have a link to this website that gives you a pattern for making the basic block and for using the block in a bigger project like a quilt or something like that. I have several of these. I quite like them. I've bought them for ones that are a little bit more complicated. Like I have this one that makes a really nice block, the Mosaic, number 4 they call it. I have the 100 Star, this one. I've used that. They have one for log cabin. Now you're going to say, yeah, a log cabin one. Why would I need that? There's just strips at different lengths. That's easy to cut with a stripology ruler or just my regular ruler. Yes, it is. But in this case, you know you're going to get exactly the length you need to make, I think this is a 12-inch finished square. And you do it much faster and it's accurate. By the way, I am not affiliated with Accuquilt and I do not get a kickback for any of this. I'm telling you my honest opinion of what I'm using. Drunkard's Path, I've used that one. Works really well because with Drunkard's Path, you have to have templates to cut them out properly. Here, you don't have to worry about a template. And it comes in various sizes. And then they've got some really fun blocks too, like these butterflies, North Carolina block. I bought, as I said earlier, a double wedding ring. This is one I want to get someday right here. The Tree of Life. I have a Mariner's Compass. I haven't used it yet. I have several dies I have not unwrapped yet, and I've had them for a while. I have a Lemoyne Star for cutting out. And the thing about the Lemoyne Star, you don't have to worry about Y seams on any of these things because the way they have designed the cut, it's straight line sewing. With the exception of a Drunkard's Path, you will still have to sew these as a curve. However, it actually, I don't think you can see it in this picture. Guess not, it doesn't blow up. Might if I click on it, maybe to go to. I want to show you there are marks. See here on the die right here? Oops. Come on. Okay, if you look at the die and I'm highlighting it, see the little dart that comes out of those pieces? That's so you know how to line up the curves so that you can cut them or sew them properly. So that takes some of the guesswork out of that because sewing curves in a Drunkard's Path are not usually easy. It takes some practice. This takes that out of the picture, so you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, there's tons of dies for whatever you want. I have the circle dies. I have 2 different sizes of circle dies. They have multiples on it because, you know, Circles are good, and it's accurate. Okay, so that's about the dies. And by the way, all these links I'm showing you, I've put in the show notes below, so you can go and check it out for yourself. So the next thing, accessories and add-ons. Um, you need some things. Yes, you need the dies, yes, you need the machine, but you also need the cutting plates. And if you are somebody who's used a die cutting for paper cutting, you know that there is a plastic sheet that goes on top of your die that facilitates the cutting. You just can't put it in the machine, just the die with your fabric on top of it. You need to put in the die, you put your fabric on top of the die, and you put one of these plastic mats on top. It's like a cutting board. One of the questions that always comes up is, do these wear out? Yes, they do over time, but you'll get quite a long life out of them. And they are one of the cheaper things to replace with your Accuquilt system.
Do you have to put anything underneath the
Nope.
No, okay.
Nope, you don't have to put anything on these. It's just, and you can see here, this is what they're doing. You have your die, and then this little colored piece here, that's the fabric underneath, and on top of it, you put this cutting mat. Now, the cutting mats come in different sizes to fit all the dies. And they usually come in packages of two. Now, this is a bulk pack. It has, these are 10 by 24, so they're really large, which you'll need with the really large dies. Now they call it the bulk pack, so I'm not sure. I guess that's how many that's in that one. 4 in there. But you can usually they come in 2 packs. These are the smaller ones. These are the long ones for the strip dies, things like that.
See there, you got a 2-pack there.
Yeah. And that's not too bad a price for that. Depends on their size. But if you buy the Go Cubes, the Go Cubes come in the box with the appropriate cutting mat for those blocks as well. So it's all part and parcel of it. And they don't wear out that quickly. I've not replaced any of mine at all. And you can use both sides too. So you can flip it around and you want to get even wear on it. Don't always put it up, the same side up and the same end in. Flip it around, move it around a little bit, depending on what you're doing. That gives you a longer life with it. If you've been a paper crafter and you've had die cutting machines, you know those tricks. Works the same with these. The other thing under accessories that's nice is how are you going to store all this stuff? Well, what's really nice is when you buy one of these box sets, like the cubes, you get one of these boxes and everything folds up very nicely in them. And they're very, very sturdy boxes. They are not a thin cardboard. They're almost like a fabric board of sorts. But you can also buy additional ones. And I have for single applique dies, for example. When you buy one die, that die will not come with a storage box. These are something extra, but I really recommend getting them because they will protect your dies and they look nice on your shelves. They look very nice. I look at my shelf over here and it looks very nice with them all on it. And they're not too bad in price either. They're in, depending on the size, they range from about $30 to about $50 with that. So what was that? That's about the accessories and add-ons for it. Oh, and they even have these racks for holding. I don't have one of those because I don't have a place for it, but they have these little racks as well that can hold your cutting mats. I mean, I think you could go to the dollar store and buy one of those dish rack things or dryer things if you really want and you have the space for it. You don't have to have the official one. They also have a couple of rulers and their rotary cutter. I do not like their rotary cutter. I wouldn't spend the money on it. I got it as a freebie. I hardly ever use it. I don't like it at all. It just doesn't cut as well as I think it should. And it's only a 45 millimeter and I use a 60 and I don't think they sell a 60. Might show it here. They do.
Yeah, like with any product that you buy, you may find other products that work better for you.
Now they have, you know, a cutter, a bag to put your cutter in, and some of your dies and things. If you were lugging this with you to a retreat and you were going to or classes and you were going on a regular basis, then maybe you would want to invest in something like that. I don't take mine to class or to a retreat. I pre-cut anything I need to cut before I go. One thing I do recommend you buy is this, the die pick. It's not a big expense, but sometimes you get fibers caught down on in your dies. Now, your dies are basically a razor blade, a sharpened steel blade protected by foam all the way around it. So you don't press your hand down on the die because you may die cut into your hand. Okay, with that, you're very, very sharp. But sometimes fibers from your fabric will get caught in those, and that can uh, make the die not cut as cleanly as it should. You might have a couple of threads hanging onto it, like kind of like when you've got a dull rotary cutter, okay? And you cut a piece of fabric, and there's always one string holding the pieces together, that kind of thing. The pick gets in there, and you can dig it out with that. So I do recommend you get something like that as well. Okay, that's accessories. Now, resources. You've seen all the basic equipment now, but they have more here. They have resources and let's see, patterns, for example. Now, they will direct you with every die you buy. They will direct you to a page where you can download a free pattern or a couple of free patterns for making a quilt or whatever, wall hanging, or using the applique for a certain project and that kind of thing, which is kind of nice. And you see they're free. This isn't a sale. They're telling you $2.99, but they're free, these patterns, for the most part. There are some more elaborate patterns that they actually sell. Just going down here. See, here we go. These they sell. So they're a little bit more elaborate. And of course, these patterns are all coupled with the dies that you need to make it. So for example, this one that's got the trees and the trucks and things, those would all be probably separate dies in order to make that particular quilt. But if you have those dies, then you might want to purchase the actual pattern. But there's tons of freebies on here as well. So that's one of their resources. Another resource is, now, you see embroidery. You're thinking, wait, this is a machine that cuts shapes out. It doesn't sew. No, it doesn't. But what they're trying to do, and let me pull this up. It's a little slow on the load. Here we go. These are add-ons that you can pay for, and they go with these dies. So if you don't want to sew your applique by hand, yourself, if you've got an embroidery machine, and it doesn't matter what brand, because they have them for all brands, you can download this, pay for this, download it, and it will sew your applique down. However, I don't really particularly like them. I'm a machine embroiderer, and there is a way to do machine embroidering. If you've seen some of my idiot quilter videos, I have shown this, whereby the file draws out the shape. You place your fabric on top of it. You don't have to cut the shape out first. And then it sews around it, tacks it down, and it finishes off with a satin stitch. They do it in a very, what I consider, awkward way. I bought one, not for that gnome, but let's say that's the gnome I had. So with the Accuquilt die for this, remember, this is for the embroidery file, not for the die. The die is separate. It will cut out all these pieces. And then you can use your domestic sewing machine and sew them all down like you would conventionally. But you'll notice on this, it has satin stitches all the way around. Some just come with a blanket stitch to hold down the die, but this particular one has satin stitches, which finishes off your applique very nicely. Now, if you're going to do this by hand on your domestic machine, you can, but you probably won't get it as accurate. But the thing I didn't like was I found I cut out my pieces using the die for this. They didn't line up as well as I would have liked. There were pieces of fabric hanging out that shouldn't have been hanging out. Maybe it was that just that one particular die. I don't know. So you had to go in and trim it afterwards. And you got to be careful when you trim on a satin stitch, because if you cut even one of the stitches in your satin stitch, it'll all unravel. You'll also notice that they sometimes do some of them in a combination. Notice his beard has got a blanket stitch. Look where the blanket stitch is going. Even on this one, that blanket stitch is going way outside of that. If you were doing that in your domestic machine, you probably don't want that look. You would probably try to make your blanket stitch or your zigzag stitch a little smaller, so it's not going into your background fabric as far. So I don't like their embroidery add-ons from my experience. I would rather do it the way I usually do it, which is sew down a line, put the fabric on it, then sew the tack down stitch, and then trim it from there.
Yeah, but that isn't using Accuquilt dies, right? No,
No, that is,
yeah.
no, but you could, because I did do it. I did it their way first and didn't like it. Then I thought, well, wait, what's stopping me from doing it my way? Except instead of, before I get down to the satin stitch, there is a placement stitch that they have, or a little. Why can't I use that as my tack down too on my fabric? Cut my fabric and then go to
Yeah,
the
but
satin
so
stitch.
what's the point of using the die cutting machine to cut out the fabric?
Exactly. So you just hit on something that you can do. If you have an embroidery machine, but you don't have the die, say for this guy, you can pay $5.99 American, download this, and do. If you're an experienced machine embroiderer, you don't need the die. You can do it without the die. However, having said that, why not just go to something like OESD, Embroidery Online, Embroidery Library, Designs by Juju, and finding one of their designs
Right,
for this, because they tend to be sometimes a little bit less expensive than this,
right.
especially when they're on sale. So yeah, this is something I think Accuquilt has developed to encourage you to buy the applique dies.
Right.
And not all the applique dies have an embroidery for it. So yeah, this is something that I don't think is worth the effort with it. But you may differ in your opinion. That's just my opinion. It's there though. Now, education. Learn how to quilt with Accuquilt. Now, they will take you, if you're a rank beginner, they are appealing to people who have never made a quilt before using their system, which is fine. If you want to make a quilt, you've never done it before, and happen to have well, why would you have an Accuquilt machine if you've never quilted before? You probably wouldn't.
Or you could be a beginner quilter, and somebody said, "Oh, you should buy an Accuquilt."
Yeah, you could be with that. So they do show you how to do this step by step.
Yeah.
But what's more important about their education is they have they show you how to use various like pre-cuts with the Accuquilt system.
And I'm sure there's lots of YouTube videos on how to do that.
And they have a lot of them. So like right here,
Yeah.
Find the perfect quarter inch seam allowance. They have ones that go beyond Accuquilt as well. But they do have in their education section a video gallery. And in the video gallery, they're basically YouTube videos. Well, maybe they're not. Some are. Oh yeah, they see it'll go to YouTube for it. If you prefer to watch, or you can just watch it right here. And they will give you full instructions on how to do everything. And they also give you the links for, if you saw this and you go, I'd really like to make that quilt, and I have an Accuquilt, then I can get the pattern. It's free. But I can also get the matching dies. They're not free.
Yeah, I know. You'd have to buy in that one. You'd have to buy a 5-inch block and 5-inch companion set corner.
Yes, that's something we didn't talk about. They have mix and match, and they have companion sets. So there's add-on sets to the basic cubes that give you even more potential, and I have some of them as well. I haven't used them all yet. but I have them. If I want to use them, I can. But yeah, you see, you can go down the rabbit hole with this, because there's so much. Okay, so they have that facility for learning about things. They also have a download library. If you look up here, okay, where was it? Well, it
Their
was,
download library next to the one that you've got highlighted.
oh yeah, okay, the download. Here we go. Yeah, up here on the page, this is the download library, and it has all kinds of different things. This is where you can get patterns, free and not free. You get design ideas, all kinds of things like that that you can download as PDF files. So they do have more than just the dies. They are showing you how to use the dies, how you can be creative with them. There's lots of inspiration there. What else? Oh, this is one thing that's really good to have if you're like me and you have a lot of the dies. It's difficult to decide what die you're going to use for something. So like I'm looking at a pattern, not one of their patterns. I'm looking at your standard pattern, and it says I need a 2.5 inch square or something. So I can go into this chart. You see how it's organized? It's got, why won't this let me move down? There we go. Okay, by circles, diamond shapes, flying geese. Oh yes, you can make flying geese. There are dies for that. Hexagons, ovals, rectangles, but let's say squares. And I use this all the time. So say my pattern calls for a 3.5 inch square. All right, now this is where things can get a little confusing. They will list two sizes on all of their dies. One is the finished size, and one is the actual size that's being cut, because you know in quilting we have unfinished and finished. So let's say my pattern called for a 3.5 inch unfinished square. Well, I go down to this middle chart. There it is, 3.5 inch unfinished, which means that when it's put into the quilt, it's going to finish at a 3 inch square. But this is the one I want. So where do I find it? This is where I find it. I can find the die for that if I have the 12-inch mix and match block, or if I have the 6-inch mix and match block. If I have the Go Churn Dash 9-inch finished block, it will cut, that's a block on board. It will cut, it'll have a die for cutting the 3.5 inch square. And there's actually is a 3.5 inch die itself just for that. And usually these will cut more than one at a time, like they'll be laid out. The smaller ones especially, like for example, if you buy the 2.5 inch die cut block, you cut 4 of them at a time because they'll fit on that one block. The larger ones, it might be just one. But you see, so there's all of these. So if I had one of these but I didn't have the others, it doesn't matter. I can do that cut, and that's why this chart's very handy. I use it all the time. I printed it out. It's a PDF. It was free, and I put it in a binder. And so I have a reference guide now. In fact, when I first got them, I thought, well, it'd be nice if I had some kind of reference to know what I can cut. So I started making my own, and somebody told me, they said, well, they thought for sure that Accuquilt had a chart for that. Sure enough, they do. So that saved me a lot of time. I'd have to write my own, like 29 pages. It covers everything that they have. So that's a good thing. All right, what else does Accuquilt give you? Well, before that, let's just talk, and we've already talked a little bit about this, the benefits and disadvantages. Okay, obviously the best advantage is faster, more accurate. It's also great if you have problems with your hands. Okay, so that's a good thing. They have all of these related patterns, so there's lots of resources as well. But what are some of the disadvantages? Well, one, storage. When you start acquiring blocks, where are you going to put them? Mine are sitting on bookshelves. They're taking up 1, 2, 3 bookshelves right now. I've got a lot. Plus, I have a spot behind Walter. It's really not in the camera shot there, for the longer ones as well. So yeah, they take up storage space, not to mention the machine as well. I'm lucky because the way that I designed my sewing table, my cutting table, I have little area underneath the table that my machine fits in automatically, and I have it wired there. It's always plugged in. All I have to do is just put it up on top of my cutting table, open it up, push the on button, away I go. But you may not have that. And it is a large machine for laying out. So if you've got lots of counter space and you leave your machine out all the time, that's ideal. But if you don't, then you are going to have to lift it up, and they're heavy, depending which model you get. Another disadvantage is, and this is something a lot of people talk about, wasted fabric. Yes, you will waste fabric. You just have to get over that. Not a lot, but there are those stingy quilters out there that, they only want to shave off a little bit of fabric. They take great pride in the fact that they can get all their pieces for a queen size quilt out of a charm pack with no waste. Yeah, not going to happen. The Accuquilt will waste some fabric. Not a lot, but it's going to waste some. The cutting blades can get clogged, but that's why you have the little pick. That's not really a major problem. The stuff pops right out if you have that little pick, and the pick is not expensive. As you saw, $5.99 American for it. Anything else? That's about only disadvantages I can say, except for,
Well, the other disadvantage is the cost, right?
well, yeah, okay, well, yeah, this isn't going to come cheap. I mean, right now, at what I've invested in this, between what Walter's invested in it as gifts for me, and what I've invested in it, I would say with the machine and the whole bit,
It's several thousand.
several. It's at least $5,000. I've got a lot of dies though, a lot of dies. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I think you ended up getting more dies because, well, one, I bought a lot and stuff, and I think people would get the machine first and start buying maybe like the 8-inch cube or something like that as a starter, and then slowly add stuff as needed.
Yeah. That's not how I do things.
No.
When I get on a craze, I go nuts. But anyways, yeah. Should switch the camera over so it's in. So yeah, I guess that's one of the major drawbacks of the Accuquilt system. It is expensive, but they're well built. Okay, you're not talking here a flimsy little machine.
I mean, there are other accessories that you sew with that are expensive, like rulers are expensive too, if you really look at it and stuff like that. But
yeah, but and will this replace all your rulers? No, it won't. It won't. And there are some times when I only need a couple of strips of fabric with like 2.5-inch strips, a couple of them from a width of fabric kind of cut. I'll just pull out my Stripology ruler and do those using my rotary cutter, because then I don't have to worry about folding my fabric in it to make the right cut and all that kind of stuff. And it's just easier. But when I need to do a lot, multiples, then yeah, I use the machine. And one of the other advantages of this, you know how we acquire scraps? And we always have this big idea that we're going to take all our scraps and we're going to cut them down into usable sizes. Like we're going to make our own charm packs, or we're going to make 2.5-inch squares for the future and stuff like that. Yeah, you get out your rulers, you get out your fabric, and you're okay. The first 10 minutes you've been having fun. Within the first hour, you're going, this is bloody boring and taking me forever. And so it never gets done. You can do it a lot faster, and I just did it very recently with your Accuquilt. Zip it along, organize your fabrics, get them ready to go, slap them on the machine, put them through, there you go, peel them off, put the next ones through. In an hour, you can cut a lot of 2.5-inch squares or whatever size you're cutting, and that really reduces your scraps and makes them more usable too, as well. So yeah. Okay. Trying to think if there were any other advantages or disadvantages I haven't already mentioned. And I can't think of any, except for the portability. We already talked about that, about the weight. That's really up to you. And if you have servants, it's not a problem. Okay, another thing that Accuquilt does have on their site is they have live events. Like you can go for a trip to Long Beach, California. It's the International Quilt Festival at the time this was happening, 2023, August 29th. Now this, I don't know if this is actually a trip or it's going to be a live, because I said 12 o'clock then. Watch the event. So on August the 29th at 1 p.m., you can watch this event live. And of course, they're going to be showing you things about Long Beach, but it is a way of also selling machines and things like that. But if you like those kind of things, then you'll probably like it. And here's their featured products for that. They're going to show you how they use these in their projects. And there's the presenters. So yeah, but I mean, it's another resource. And
Well, there was something else that I got when I bought your quilts. They had a special where you got a magazine.
Yes,
that would show you all the different blocks that you could do.
Yeah, actually, there's one right underneath that pile. I think my book go right to the bottom. We'll just get it show it to you. Yeah, that's it. This came as a freebie, and this was when Walter got me.
And it was produced by Eleanor Burns.
Yeah, it's by Eleanor Burns because she's sort of official ambassador for this. And if you watch any of Eleanor Burns' videos, she's always using her Accuquilt. It has these blocks. This is for the cube system. All the different blocks you can make, and it has instructions for putting them together as quilts as well. This was a freebie that they offered as a special that came with Walter bought me a couple.
I had ordered some stuff directly from Accuquilt, and it came as a special. It came as a freebie. I think it's about a $30 or $35 magazine if you buy it.
I was looking at the back to see if they had a price on it. They don't. But yeah, so good resource as well with it. So one of the questions that often comes up is, I've had people ask me, if I already have a die cutting machine like a Sizzix, a Tim Holtz Vagabond, what are the other names of the other ones? I used to have them all at one point in time. Spellbinders, the Sizzix, I was going to say
the little one too.
The ones that are meant for paper cutting. Can you use these dies with those machines? Yes and no. First of all, you have to have a machine that's big enough, and there are a couple the Big Shot, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You can use some of the 6-inch dies with a Big Shot. However, you have to play around with your cutting mats for it. And you may have to put in a shim. A shim is just a piece of folded paper just to give it a little bit more pressure. So yes, you can. And in fact, when I first got into quilting, I was trying some English paper piecing and doing hexagons, hand sewing, and I needed to cut out hexagons. I bought an Accuquilt die to do that, and it did work in my Sizzix Big Shot. But it's hit and miss. The pressure's different, the sizes vary, and the whole bit. So you might be able to use some of the Accuquilt dies with your existing die cutting machine, but you're going to have to know your measurements and everything like that, and I don't really recommend it. Okay.
Yeah. I think you're better off spending the money to get an Accuquilt machine.
Yeah. And they're designed on purpose so that you really can't take full advantage of it, because then everybody would, right? And they're a business. Customer service. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I did have a problem with my machine when I first bought it.
Now, you bought it from Quilter Quilting.
Yes, right? I did. I'm getting to that. Quilter Quilting is an authorized dealer for Accuquilt machines, and I bought my machine and some of my first dies from them. I still buy from them, actually, because they sometimes put things on sale. The problem I had with my machine was there is an adapter. It has a brick, a power brick, okay, and it has what how you plug it in. It's one of those, little plug things you've seen on other electronic
It's
things,
like an adapter plug.
like an
Yeah.
adapter plug, and it goes into the side of it. Fine and dandy. But on my machine, it was really tight. There's a little pin inside the machine where the adapter plug goes in, and it goes into the little hole in the adapter plug. It was really, really tough to get that in, to the point where trying to get it in, and I was twisting it a little bit, it broke off. The little pin inside the machine broke off, and I went, oh, and this was within the first month of using the machine. Well, I wasn't thrilled. So I called up Quilter Quilting, and they said, yeah, bring it in to us. And they might be able to fix it or they would just give me another machine because it was all under warranty. Well, they ended up giving me another machine because basically the soldering that held the little pin inside the machine had come out, and they weren't going to screw around with that. With it, they just gave me another machine, which was fine. I have heard that this problem has happened to other people as well. And in fact, on the new machine that they gave me, that problem is still there. But I am very, very careful when I plug it in. This is something that the Quilter Quilting told the manufacturers, the head office, about. As far as I know, they have done nothing about it. So beware of that. That is a flaw in design. Okay. Now, if you have to take your machine back to them, if you're in the States and you live wherever they are located, I'm not sure where they're located. I think they're down around Texas.
I
or
did no, actually
Kentucky.
they're not in Texas. They're in one of the more northern
Oh,
states.
are they?
Um, I can't remember exactly the name of the state.
Well, if you live in the States or something, it might be easier to get it back to them if you don't have it you didn't buy it from an authorized dealer that was in your area, if there was one. If not, you're going to have to deal with whoever. And their customer service, when you contact them, were horrible. In fact, you could leave them messages, both voice and text, the whole bit, and they wouldn't answer you at all. They were infamous for that. But they I think, have changed ownership. And from what I've heard from somebody that had the same problem as I had with my machine, they took it back to their authorized dealer, but they also contacted Accuquilt directly, and they said they were very, very helpful. So they may have changed.
They're in Omaha, Nebraska.
Oh, okay, Nebraska. So I don't know. I only deal with Quilter Quilting, my authorized dealer. I don't deal directly with Accuquilt, but what I'm hearing is that they have improved on their customer service. So I don't know. Your results may vary with that. I'm just saying. Okay, so that's lots of things about Accuquilt. Overall, do I resent spending the money that I have spent on it? I do not. I think it was a really good investment. I just didn't buy one willy-nilly. I did some research. I watched videos. I made the decision because it was a big investment to start with, and I do not regret a penny that I've spent on it. I love the system. I think it works really well. Does it replace my rulers? No, it does not. There are still things you need your rulers and your rotary cutter for as well, but it makes your life a lot easier, especially when you've got a lot of pieces to cut out, a lot of the same pieces. So I do recommend it, given everything else that I have said.
And he doesn't make a profit from saying that.
No, I do not. God, I wish I did. But nope, I do not. If Accuquilt would like to reach out and have me sponsor them, or would like to sponsor me, we can talk. I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So anyways, I hope that answered some questions that you had about the system. If you have questions, you can put them in the comments below, and if I can answer them, I will. And yeah, any final parting remarks about this? Since you did buy a lot of the dies for me.
No, I mean, if you buy, if you do buy you can buy the dies. I bought the dies directly from Accuquilt, and even though we live in Canada, I found that shipping was too expensive to have them shipped. So I went through
A third party
a
shipping
third party
company.
shipping company that ships to Niagara Falls, New York, and then they take it across.
And it costs you like,
It costs you a fee to do that. And it worked out cheaper than buying from someplace like Worth of Quilting, but there's a lot of aggravation.
there's a lot of
And there's
aggravation.
one shipment that they almost lost on me. So
Yeah.
I would think twice about doing that.
And also at the time that he was buying this, Accuquilt in the States, like at stateside, were having a really, really good sale.
Yeah, they were getting more than 50% off
Yeah.
on this stuff, and they don't have those sales anymore. So it's just not worth it. If you're saving, you have to save at least 50% to make it worth your while to try and do something like that.
If you're in Canada.
If you're in Canada.
You're having,
but but if you're getting 30% from a place like Worth of Quilting or something like that, then forget it. Just go with them.
Oh, and there's one other service they offer as well. If you want them, you have a design for a custom die, you're doing a very special, unique, say an art quilt, and you have a shape or whatever that, you know, they don't actually have a die for, you can send them your drawings of that and they will work with you and they will make you a custom die from your drawing. I have no idea how much that costs because they don't have a flat fee. I guess you have to negotiate that with them, but there's that potential too. I can't see myself ever having to wanting to do that. But you know, if you're into art quilting and you want something very, very unique that you've designed, then they will make you a die for that as well. Okay, so that's it for us today on this. I hope you enjoyed this and you learned a lot. Yeah, we'll see what happens next week on So Chatty. Thanks for joining us. Say goodbye, Walter.
Goodbye.